Welcome to the Connection Lab podcast. I'm your host, Alex Thomas, and I'm here to help you on your journey to confidence, authentic connection, and a deeply fulfilling life. Welcome to the podcast, Naftali Moses.
So glad to be here. You got me high with a little meditation, so wall down.
Perfect. Well, let's dive right into it. Let's go straight into the deep end. One question I love to ask people that I think really shows what you're all about is, at this stage in your life, Naftali, what is your life's purpose? And, what are you actively working towards?
Oh, wow. Well, at this point in my life, I don't know if you're familiar with Rosh Hashanah. Does that ring a bell?
Rosh Hashanah. Is that
Jewish
like a Jewish one? Okay.
And well, I've spent the last 3-4 days reflecting ever since that holiday. And usually during that holiday, I'll reread a journal at the beginning of the year that I wrote prior. So here I'll reread the portions of journals that I've had. And what was really wild is that I've noticed how much of my life was really about just helping people and being able to just provide what I believe would give people stability. And more importantly, the ability to connect to life and to connect with humanity and to create free individuals. That has always been my purpose. And to this day, it's still my purpose and my ability to spread that message and to deliver it so that I can awaken mankind from its dormant state that it is in the moment. I don't think you need to be a psychotherapist to kind of realize that it's not a good place that most people are in, seeking identity and trying to connect to a higher power. And even more importantly, trying to get some stability in the day to day so that you can actually create what you want to create. Here's the thing. After I finished my reflection period, I was put in a position where I actually took all of that and I threw it out the window. There was so much of my own value that was coming from that. And every day where I didn't bring it into the world was like its own form of failure to me. I was almost putting conditions on myself, cutting off my ability to unconditionally love myself and feel the spirit of God within me. And I found it so wild how when I threw it away, I'm not kidding, Alex, I found it at the core love I'm talking about. The undeniable always will be and always is that. And my purpose at this moment is just to be able to give back as much as I can and to deliver that message, the message that is a constant reminder that we are one. And if we truly want to be free, we really have to connect and understand what exactly our values are so that we can actually expand those values into a place where we are free. Because you take away all of those values, well, then you're not free. You're just going to subconsciously adopt your ruler. But when we consciously connect to those values, then we are freeing ourselves from what it is to be locked in. Because now we understand why things are the way things are. And in doing so, you release yourself from your job, whatever girl you're trying to chase, whatever position you're trying to be in, whatever kind of person you're trying to be in. And you're ultimately okay just being. And there's so much power in that. I'd love to get people to find that unconditional love for themselves, the universal spirit that's within all of us, and to start interacting with life around you. It's no longer happening to you, happening for you. And let's wake up. Let's do it together.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's a lot of things that you just said. Let's just dive right into it. One of the things you said was, it sounds like you had this kind of belief of what you needed in order to be worthy, in order to be enough, in order to have love. And you said you threw it away. I threw away this belief. What was the conditions you were putting on what you needed to feel that love? And how do you, what is the process for just throwing it away so that, realizing you are just enough?
Oh, I love that one. When are you just enough, right? It's so interesting because you need insecurities to drive you to action, especially good action. So I think that we rush the ball really quick. We're like, oh, I feel insecure. Let me get rid of it. Right. And it's like, well, wait, something here is being brought to my attention. There's going to be an adventure if I welcome this. It's going to be okay in the end. I will feel love for myself, right? In that thought and belief, you feel love for yourself now. And that allows you to create that feeling throughout the journey. And then when you get that love for yourself, you're going to realize you just evolve that love for the rest of your life. So it's never like situation changes. It's always going to be more or less the same. What happened is I actually took away the attachment I had to the things around me. I believe that anybody who has a passion piece, even if I speak, look, I got to speak. If I say something dumb, I pay the price, right? That could be a very large expectation or even more so. Why do I do what I do? Well, I don't only say to help others and partially it fulfills me or else I wouldn't do it. So there's so much of me that was on the other side of this business, so much of my worth, so much of like the progress that we so desperately need. And what ended up happening, it wasn't so much about getting the beliefs. I woke up one morning and I asked myself one question. Why do I act like this is so important to me? I believe that everybody has that one thing in their life that they act like is so important to them. When I dove into that question, I actually just started taking all of the things that I had my worth in, and I would just emotionally just detach from them. I would trust my employees, whatever happens, okay, if it goes under, I'm going to say what I want to say. I want this to serve me too, as much as it serves others, because then that's truly authentic. It wouldn't truly be authentic if I was just doing it for the sake of others, as I was there like, oh, this burden is so large. I have to do it. That's not authentic.
Mm.
I believe that Matthew McConaughey goes on screen because he wants to act and he gets to play his roles because he's inspired to do so. Not only does he play the role develops and grows him. It's almost like they're one thing.
Mm.
And he uses it's almost, I would say, better to say than there's one thing. It is the thing that helps develop and grow him. And so what ended up happening is, and I think this goes for relationships, this goes for business, and this goes for who you are and how you're going to be perceived. When you
Mm-hmm.
detach from the outcome and create freedom, that's when you start to feel that unconditional love. Because then you're actually playing right. We are here to be free. And our human nature is so survival based, where it's in our conditioning. Every great story involved a great people being unenslaved. And particularly the biblical stories really dive into that. And it's like, well, why slaves? Because the whole story is about a group of slaves. And it's like, well, what are we if not just a group of slaves? Slaves are people that are always in a survival mindset. And when I realized that if you take that mindset and you bring it into your business, over time, it's going to be something that owns you, not something that you. But when you always make sure that at a core level, you come into everything, you detach from it because there's an expectation, and all expectations have limitations. And when you get rid of those expectations, even if it was to, I have to impress Alex, because if I impress Alex, I'll get really good content, right? Or if I help that client, then I'll feel like a good coach and then I could charge more, which is going to be good for me. I got rid of every single one of those expectations because the only thing I truly wanted was to express myself. And I mean this. In that, my life has never been better.
Beautiful. So it's really about finding that true alignment inside you and detaching from the outcome. And the real alignment is just wanting to be free, wanting to be authentic. And a lot of what you talk about is helping clients become more confident, become more freedom. So let's talk just from like a high level what that process looks like. But before that, when someone comes to you, what does their life look like before they're free and before they are confident? What are kind of the symptoms that they have? And let's do like a before and after. What do they look like before? And what does someone's life look like when they're free?
It's not as pretty as you think. I'll meet somebody where they're at, always. If a home is half built, well, let's build the other half. I have no reason to go back to the foundation and go, wow, you did such a good job, right? And like, I meet you where you're at. And what we're trying to do is create ultimately a breakthrough. That's the generic word for it. So sometimes it usually gets worse before it gets better. But people that come in, they typically come in with a list of issues. I believe that it all comes from a fundamental feeling of unworthiness. Now, what can unworthiness can create a crippling fear of rejection, right? Because then you're left with yourself after you are rejected. It can create an inability to express yourself, creating usually people pleasers or performers. Both are afraid of rejection, both are unworthy. And then you have people that can't set boundaries and allow you to frame the appropriate expectations, which is, by the way, this destroys so many relationships. And then that starts to stem into people's day-to-day life, like their overall relationships, their business, their friendships. And it all stems from a fundamental feeling of unworthiness. And then their whole life starts to manifest that unworthiness. And it's like they're forever second place until that hurts too much. And then they shut down. So usually it's a wake-up process in the beginning. If you give a man the ability to lie to himself because of the fact that he feels like a failure in anything that he sets his mind to, we'll just tease him mindlessly, like the beautiful girl on the magazine cover. All of that stems from unworthiness of the beautiful girl on the magazine cover, unworthiness of the dreams that other people are fulfilling. So when you're in that position, what you do is you just go, you find the switch because you can, it's there, and you turn it off. That's actually when you become dangerous to others. And I know that we think that we don't have the responsibility of life. We bear good and evil in our hands day to day, every day, life and death too. So a lot of the time, it could actually be very, 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 very provoking. Imagine you spend 20 years literally living a lie, and your ego is protecting you, doing everything that it can in the midst of a session to protect you from the truth about how you've been living a lie. Your whole life has been one big wound, and how you're going to have to give everything up to live one day of authenticity. Most people don't smile after. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it. And I'm not very like, oh, it's super easy. It's simple. It's not easy. There is nothing easy about stepping into the dark parts of yourself and bringing it into the light. Sometimes I'll tell people, you're a fraud. And then their egos will come in there. And then I'll break their ego down bit by bit. And you'll be left with somebody at a core level. They feel like nothing. They feel like failures. And all of these things happen in childhood. Sometimes they happen in your adolescence and as a teenager. And even they happen as an adult. But what ends up happening is that if people don't start confronting and developing a relationship with their pain, they never grow. So really what's happening is that you're given the opportunity in like a Western culture to cope with all of your pain and never have to face any of it, because there are so many avenues to easy access to sex, easy access to food, easy access to an abundance of work. Oh, there's no shortage of work. Remember, if you're feeling like shit, you just broke up, just put your head in the paper, you'll be good. And none of those things actually allow you to feel and experience life. And then you have everybody else on that. So you've broken apart families and communities, and nobody can actually be open and vulnerable. So what you get is a bunch of people that are shut down, that have no ability to feel and express themselves. That's usually the situation that I deal with. And then when you can see where somebody needs to be built up, and you could build them up that way. And sometimes it needs to break them down to build them back up. And sometimes you could actually just get somebody to realize that they were missing a particular component that made them feel like they were shaky. It could be very easy sometimes, but ultimately by the end of it, we are creating more authentic individuals. Not all the time is it like, dude, I feel so good. I've been walking into bars. I've been talking to everybody. I'm on top of my shit. Sometimes it's, I needed this. It wasn't pretty. Nothing about it was pretty. I'm still feeling the fact that I've abandoned myself for years. I'm working on forgiving myself, and I'm every day I'm trying to give as much of that unconditional love to myself. Sometimes it looks like that. Others it looks like, hey man, I started a startup. We just made 250K in the first month. So good. I'm talking to people. I'm going out in the world. I'm raising the bar. I'm opening myself up. My reality is changing. I'm losing my mind. Sometimes it's that.
So a lot of it is just they become aware of how they've been kind of behaving the past few years, how they've been kind of shutting themselves off and realizing that they have this low sense of worth. And after it's, yeah, once they're aware of that, they can actually start building on top of that new starting place.
Let's just get people back into life. I'm not here to live it for you. My programs aren't very long. And the reason why I do that is because this whole notion where I take the accountability of somebody's life is absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, it's people are rich enough to pay for it too. And that's not what the message you're trying to send to the world. The message you're trying to send to the world is I want to get as many soldiers as I can on the field. I want as many people as I can reconnecting back to life and doing their part. I believe that there's a lot of incomplete, and you can feel it. We can all feel it because we are inherently all one. There's this void, and it's going to take people that are individuals. Individuals are people that are connected to their mission and purpose, and their whole life almost as everything was made for them. That's how you can tell an individual out. They're not living like, oh, look at this guy, he got his Porsche, and I'm going to subconsciously compete with that person until I get my Porsche, and it's going to be the newer model with faster engine. When you get people completely out of that, and it's just the walls closed in, coming out of your eyes, the only thing that you can see is this present moment, whatever that is for that person. That's when they're truly living. And that's also when love can truly be achieved, because it takes courage to be an individual. An individual means that you have to stand against the masses. How do you do that? Try being authentic. That's a start, right? Authentic how? Well, I'm always authentic when I speak to people. I always say what's on my mind. I'm vulnerable. Yeah, but you do a job that doesn't represent you. Are you authentic now? Oh, okay. And you're in environments that don't represent you. All of your friends are not even a representation of you. You only hang out with them so that you can help them because you want to be seen as the big shot. That's an example. And when you take people out of that and you show them what an actual authentic life is and what it requires to be an individual, there's a chance at love, a chance. There is a chance to have a woman that respects you, loves you, and does everything she can to, with that aligned purpose, to build something with you. You have friends that challenge you and bring the best out of you all the time. And you guys love to challenge one another and just almost like as if you're just some camaraderie in your competition, but there's no animosity. And that there's an ability to wake up every morning and to feel the breath of life come through your lungs all over again, as if it was another morning and you were reborn into that moment. That only happens when people live authentic lives. I used to wake up tired. I used to need 6 cups of coffee to get through my training job. I had an abundance of clients. I made a lot of money. I had a lot of women, but none of them were me. None of them felt like me. I had no home for a long-term relationship. I had no place for a long-term future with those clients. And it felt like I was stuck there forever. And every morning I woke up, the one thought that went through my head was, fuck, man, I'm a guy that had everything. I believe I'm blessed with beauty, height, stature, friends. Those weren't my friends. Those were people that just loved to watch another day go by. And that's because that's who I was. They were reflecting. Every girlfriend I had in the past was just a pure reflection of my narcissistic personality. Everybody just agreeing to what my beck and call was to then stab me in the back because they couldn't express what they wanted and needed. My job, and look at then eventually I start to get angry, start to get aggressive with my clients. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm becoming the bad guy. And that's when the day starts, is when you start realizing that if you're inauthentic long enough, not only do you not live an authentic life, you start to hurt others. I believe a responsibility for people to seek out their purpose, their mission, and to go about the adventure of life, to go about with the fundamental belief that all human beings are worthy of greatness and are born with unconditional love, because those are only two things that can happen on planet Earth. So I guess you could say that a lot of these things just amassed to great awakenings because I was open to experience so much pain.
And you said a fundamental part of this, people who have low confidence aren't free, is a feeling of unworthiness. So how do you shift that? How do you shift in someone to allow them to feel worthy?
Everybody's different, but I would say that everybody has to come down to the core levels of things, right? So things that we all love and need. We want love, that's for certain, right? We want success, that's for certain. We want recognition, that's for certain. Now, imagine you're growing up in an environment where you've only had scarcity around women, you've only had scarcity around wealth, and you've only had people treat you like shit. So you're getting a confirmation that you're nothing, right? Based off your environment and what you've experienced. Because I believe that if you expose anybody to actual love and you reinforce their actions, not their outcomes, and that you give them a value system that allows them to connect to life and feel that they can always rely on that value system when looking at anything and looking at both of them with a bigger picture, you can create a very, very powerful person. So people that have that typically fall into two categories: pleasers or performers. Performers are the type that go, oh my God, I can't get any women. So what do you become? You become the peacock, the pickup artist, the people person, the talker, right? If it's better to be a performer or a pleaser, they're both really bad. They'll both leave you alone. They'll both leave you very lonely, and they'll both leave you feeling unworthy.
Yeah.
I guess you could say one you can capitalize more on because you can definitely work with people. And then the other is, well, you please, right? You please and you hide. Both of them are a form of hiding, by the way, because they're both rejecting oneself. A manifestation of unworthiness is self-rejection, which is manifested in others, which is getting rejected, right? You please, why? To not get rejected. You perform, why? To not get rejected. Both of them don't feel deserving of whatever you have. And anybody who's in an elevated state can see that. You can spot a pleaser out like that. You can spot a performer out like that, because being authentic is truly standing naked. So getting somebody, and if you wanted to ask me the question again, you were saying, how do you help somebody out of it?
Yeah. What's the process look like from helping someone to feel worthy?
Absolutely. And I think the most practical thing anybody can do is flip it on its ass. Just completely turn it over, right? We're always like, okay, well, do a little bit of both. No, just completely commit to being a clown. Completely. Because now there's one thing performers and pleasers both have in common: big egos, the truth about themselves. Performers can't shut up. Pleasers need to speak up. Both of them think they're okay. Ego, big issue now, especially with media. I think that we're experiencing an evolution in our psychology where we're becoming cautious of perception. Perception, because we have so many cameras on us. And you can see the most ugly parts of us, which is great. It's an opportunity to love yourself unconditionally, because you better, in a world where there's a camera on every angle and every part of yourself, and people could look up your name and see all your bullshit, you better love yourself, because everybody will hate you, but you won't. And that's an adventure. So getting the performer out of his place of performance is all about flipping it on its ass, right? Which is, okay, you're a performer. Why? So that you could say the right things at the wrong time. Now say the wrong things at the wrong times. And now you're going to go, what do you mean? But that's my image. Great. You're getting him to play the fool, right? Now, what about the pleaser? He's quiet. He's a mute. He's lost his voice. Don't shut the fuck up. Sound like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Do something that's going to completely flip it on its ass, right? Okay, how do I get the girl? Well, go get rejected. Don't get the girl. What? How do I get the job? Don't get the job. Get fired. What? But I've been always, no. We're going to reverse this, right? You're going to almost re-raise somebody. How would you raise a son? How would you raise a daughter? What you did was good. I'm proud of you. As they get older, you can help them dial in results. But that's really easy when you've developed the muscle to go take action. It's not so easy when you've been told your whole life, don't do this, and everybody laughs. My honest opinion is that everybody at some point has had a place in their life where they have went out and done something authentic and have gotten destroyed for it. Hey, I want you to listen to me. I want to express all of these emotions. There's no place for emotions in this world. Okay. I'm not on God. It's said to kids that way. Or, oh yeah, I want to go sing on stage. And then everybody starts laughing. That voice could have been developed into a good voice, right? But it's now never going to be a voice. So it gets taken. So it's really fun to play the fool. You play the fool on both parties, right? Both of them have a hard time engaging with what they want to engage with without pedestalizing it somehow. So what do both of them have in common? They put it above them. The performer goes, in order to get it, I'll be something so good and so worthy that I'll get it. Unworthy. The pleaser goes, if I wait here long enough and say all the right things at the right time, and I bear, one day I will get it. So the fundamental cure to it is playing the fool, living for your own amusement, integrating with your child again, seeing the things that you love the most. When I was working my training business, I went from 30 clients to 0. That was not including the online ones. The way that I healed myself was through playing Halo 2 with my best friend at the time, who was an alcoholic, suicidal, and didn't have a license. We weren't so different. We're both disconnected. Now, I'll show you that this was actually part of my journey in realizing how much I can help people. Not only did he lose 40 pounds, start going on more dates, started actually experiencing life. We were going out every night. He started closing more deals. He got a sales job. And near the end of our relationship, he got offered a position for $150,000 a year working in the sales position because he was so gifted with people, right? A lot of the time we feel like we're stupid, but we're just put in the wrong environments. So what ended up happening is that once I did things for only my own amusement, that is when my life started to feel like it was there. And what did I do? Well, you call your friend over and you play Halo 2, but this time you do it with intention. You don't understand, man. There's a point in every person's life. If you feel stuck, you're not speaking to your child. We were brought here to do one thing, and it is to be ourselves. And there is no more authentic version of yourself than you were as a child. And you will forever always integrate that child into every version of yourself for the rest of your life until you die. And not only can you be happy, you'll be fulfilled. Money will hunt you down. Women will love you. Your woman will respect you. Your children will adore you. And they will always make sure that they don't speak down to you in any way, shape, or form. Everybody in your business or your job will look up to you and respect you. And that is the actual job that we are here to do, but we are constantly turned away every second, stimuli, do this. How about cut it all out? Sit the fuck down. Look at the wall. Watch the paint peel. How do you feel? Like shit. Why? Because A, B, and C. There's no world out there. What about this world? And it's about turning that lens inward. And I'd really like to see what would happen if more people started playing the fool, living for their own amusement. And then that's where you find the unconditional love, because it's the day you finally become unconditional with yourself.
And you said, so a fundamental part of this, it sounds like, is doing the thing that you might get rejected, facing that fear head on, and just doing things for your own amusement. But you said doing it with intention. So if someone is listening and they want to start changing their behavior, start living with more amusement, and they want to do it with intention, how do they do it if they want to start today?
This is where people really mess this up. Rejection without intention to be rejected destroys your self-esteem. Rejection with intention to be rejected builds your self-esteem. If I were to grab you and throw you in the ocean in the middle of the night, you would get up and beat the shit out of me going, what did you do to me? I'd probably give you trauma symptoms. If I told you, Alex, I want you to go dive in the ocean in the middle of the night, see what it's like to dive into the void, completely bare naked in the middle of October. You would go, I did it. I'm a better man for it. You grew from it. So it's very simple that a lot of people don't have intention. Now, what if the intention is to get rejected? What if the intention is to say the dumbest thing possible that you can comprehend so that you can actually start healing? And now this works on a lot of ranges, right? Well, what fear of rejection is broken into 3 things. First one is social and base level, which is, oh my God, they probably think I'm ugly. Oh, they think I'm awkward. I probably smell weird. I have weird teeth, right? Social base level. Hey, what's up? What's your name? The next level of rejection you have is foundational, which means that it's a rejection of your values and the things that you believe. The last one that a lot of people don't bother to integrate is the intimate and sexual. It is going to, because there's so many parts of us, right? You got social, you got foundational, you got intimate. It's like almost like the 3 masks. And every single one of them, you need to have the ability to communicate it. You could tell somebody's relationship with themselves based off their ability to communicate those things about themselves. When somebody has no ability to communicate what they want and need, they're placing a silent expectation on somebody else, which will just later then get them rejected. When you're seeking rejection for all of these things, you're detaching from outcome and you're creating an emphasis on, I need to be able to say the truth about myself, even if I look like an idiot. So intention is so powerful, because what's the difference between playing video games and doing inner child work? Intention. What's the difference between personal development and destroying your self-esteem? Intention. Create this. If you said, okay, I'm going to go talk to that girl at the cafe, because I think just using a smaller analogy is a really good idea. A lot of people have approach anxiety, or even they're afraid of women, afraid of rejection, because, oh, well, women could reject your whole worth. That's something that men have been taught, which they're going to unteach, because the freest men are the ones that could say what they want, go up to who they want, and say what they want to say to the people around them. You might get a shocking impression because it's going to be very attractive. That's where we get confidence. So you see the girl and you're like, okay, shoot, she's going to reject me. A lot of the time you can feel that rejection on a foundational level, because maybe
Hey,
you're
can you
like,
get a little, give some example? You mentioned the physical, foundational, and intimate. Can you give some examples of what that means?
wonderful. And by the way, if I ever kind of go off topic, just bring me back to ground zero. This is just me when I'm just hanging out.
Sure,
I
yeah.
want to do as much as I can. I want to give people as much as I can. I want people doing this for free because it's a better world for me.
Mhm.
So social, foundational, and then sexual and intimate. You could just say intimate. So social base level. Hey, what's up? What's your name? Maybe you're not somebody who's very sociable, right? But you are somebody who's very confident. You're somebody that knows what they believe. If you're Muslim, you wear your hijab. I think that's how you say it. If you are Christian, you wear your cross. Things that represent you, right? Maybe you like your Star Wars shirt, so you wear your Star Wars shirt. You don't care if you're looked at as a nerd, right? Foundational stuff, things that you believe in. And then the last one is the sexual and intimate. This is very big. And I think that a lot of people don't understand how this works, is that it's so deeply rooted to your feeling of worthiness around love, because the act of love itself is sex. And it's the most threatened with the opposite sex because it is the most different. So your likelihood of rejection is far more. My ability to reject you based off a guy, if you were to share something with me on a deep sexual level, like, oh, I like this one thing and not all girls like that, I'd be like, bro, it's fine. I get you. We're both dudes. We both see each other, right? But it takes a lot of courage in the face of a woman, right? And this is what I recommend to all men. Intentionally set out on a journey to develop undeniable stories about yourself, about your acts of courage in those intimate environments, those foundational environments, and those social environments. Now I'm going to list them out, each one with an example. Social base level. I don't know what to say, but I know that I love myself, right? Social base level. Hey, what's up? What's your name? Nice to meet you. Naftali. Hey, what do you got there? I'm just drinking a coffee. Totally cool. Just continue the conversation, whatever it is. I usually like to mirror and just kind of use observations and call out things about somebody. Like I was at a cafe the other day and just went up to this girl and I was like, you French? She's like, no, I'm not French. I was like, so you're German? And she's like, oh, nice, good guess. Yeah, German. It's like, it's one or the other. What's your name? She's like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, Haley. Is that a dead raccoon? And she had like a furry bag, whatever it was. And she's like, oh, no, it's not a dead raccoon. I'm a vegan. I said, it makes sense. You look like a plant. So that's like, there's a little bit of, you're just playing around with whatever is there. And you can see and experience how somebody's comfortable with you. And now you go, let's just say I took her out and I said, hey, Tuesday night, I pick you up, we get sushi. She goes, sounds good. I go, awesome. See you then. Text me your address. Text you the address. You got a date. It's a nice little trick. She texts you the address, you got a date. She doesn't, make other plans. So you pick her up and now you're on the date. But okay, shoot, she's vegan, right? I'm not vegan. Maybe she's left wing, I'm right wing. I'm Jewish, she's Christian. So a lot of the time we might not even represent our values and what we want from the other person, because that's another form of rejection, right? She could have said no on a social basis, going, no, thank you, I have a boyfriend, right? And I would have been like, oh, we'll have a good day. That's rejection. Yes, right? But we want rejection in every department if we want to create full structural integrity. And by the way, the most powerful thing that anybody can have, a real connection with your values and what you believe is right. So you're on the date now, we're talking, and she's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to have a big family. Ooh, see, I have a core values around families. She doesn't have a core value around families. Now, what ends up happening to me if I had a subconscious intention to get laid, for example, I could either repress it, which is what a lot of men do. What you're supposed to do is go, that's cool. It's fine. We're not getting married. Just already, I'm standing up for my values and I was given an opportunity to do so. Maybe she goes, hey, if this works out, I can't be Jewish. Be like, it's fine. By the end of it, you will be Jewish. That's a value I have. I want my children to be raised Jewish. I want to have a Jewish home. I'm just using me as an example. She could totally go, I had a lot of fun. You're a really sweet guy, but this isn't for me. What we're supposed to do is go, fuck yeah. I just said everything true about myself. I didn't bat an eye. What do you think
Mm,
happens when you say everything true about yourself and don't bat an eye? She doesn't give a shit. She's enamored by the one person she's met in all of Los Angeles, New York, or Florida that actually says what they believe and doesn't kiss ass. It's a very important thing. And it's like, actually, if you want to know this in dating, particularly women will go out of their way to say one thing that's absolutely ridiculous that they don't believe in at all to see if you will kiss ass and say yes. So there's not
mm,
only does this improve your ability to get the higher quality relationship you're looking for, it actually increases your ability to have a long-term relationship and get the person's attention just by being yourself. So
mhm,
a lot of the time people on dates go, oh, I don't even know how many kids I want. Oh, I don't even know what kind of life I want to build. Oh, I don't even know what I want to do for a living. So what you're doing is you're pretty much coming in there with no foundation at all, expecting to get to the last part, which is going to be very intimate, right? So there can be a level of rejection on that. I've had girls literally walk out going, you're a chauvinist. And I'm like, almost a chauvinist. And whatever they'll
mm,
leave. So the whole point is that people will reject you based off what you believe. It's pretty cool. You're not for everyone. That's the most beautiful thought I think that everybody can ever have. Your is for you. Your soulmate is for you, and the more that you commit to you, the better it is. Hell yeah. The more I commit to me and my business, the more business that is me. Woo. Hell yeah.
mm,
Right. It's like, well, the more I am myself, the more my friends are reflections of me. Sign me up. What's it going to call for? Courage. What's it going to call for? Rejection. What's it going to call for? Complete and total persistency that you will show up every damn day until you know for certain who you are, and then you'll smile at the beauty of it. But you're going to have to work through it. And then the last one, this is a really big one because I've been healing a lot of people's sexual traumas lately, and I realize that a lot of people are unintegrated sexually, which will create which will create serious insecurities around relationships for men and for women. I've always this because I don't think most people talk about it, but it's where they create a split. There is the man that they love and the man that they sleep with. And for men, there's the woman that they love and the woman that they sleep with. The problem is that every time when a guy likes a girl, what does he do? When he feels unworthy, pedestalize. Every time when a girl likes a guy, what does she do when she feels unworthy? Pedestalizes. How do you know you're pedestalizing? When you're not communicating what's true about you. So I challenge anybody. When it comes to sexual discovery and understanding what you need, think about the kind of intimacy that you require. Think about the kind of space that you want to have. Think about the kind of connection that you're trying to create. And then after you do that, think about the amount of fear that you want. Think about creating an environment that has no fear, nothing but completely receiving the other person by being able to listen and meet those needs, whatever it is. You focus on her, she focuses on you. But both of you guys are being completely vulnerable. By the end of that, you guys create an intimate environment, and any intimate environment is a healing environment. It requires so much courage because yes, we are all different, and the way that we express ourselves sexually is also different. If we can create an understanding of how we like to experience these things and the values that we have around sex, the values that we have around communication, the values that we have around family, the values that we have around masculine and feminine, all of those things are going to create a more powerful person. And they're all through discovering those values through rejection to see where exactly you lie and reside. That's the
mm,
adventure part. There will be points in your life where you're like, okay, we check off the values, we check off the foundation. And then you're like, well, let's go to the bedroom. And she's like, yeah, let's just keep it casual. And then you're like, well, that's not my values around sex. I don't have casual sex. I look connect with somebody. That's like the highest energetic exchange on the book, just on a bare level. She's like, no, not interested. What's that called? Rejection. But what if you were seeking it?
mm,
Finally hear your voice for the first time. That is the
mm,
1, 2, 3 for every kind of rejection that somebody can go through. And I noticed that when people can overcome the fear of rejection by welcoming it, they often create authentic individuals. When you're no longer afraid of
mm,
being rejected, you create belief. And once you create belief, well, then you're unstoppable because you're the only man in the room that believes in himself, because you're the only one that's done the work to feel worthy. We all need to do work to feel worthy, all of us, which is why that little
absolutely.
insecurity should drive you to action. Don't get rid of it.
Mhm.
Listen to it. Where is it taking you? It's taking on a journey, a rite of passage. I want to start speaking to more people. Okay, great. Start doing it. Let's get excited. And then as you
Mm,
go through the journey, you speak to hundreds of thousands of people. You get rejected all the time, and you're like, oh my God, I'm for it. I'm better for it. Why do I run from
mm.
life? Let me run into it every day.
Yeah, rejection is a core part of this entire journey of being confident and authentic. You really can't avoid it. You know, there is really no process of becoming authentic and confident without just facing that fear of a rejection. And I love how you show it in different ways. You know, you want to get rejected in each of these areas, you know, the foundational, the intimate, the physical. because each of those is going to come with their own, beliefs. It's going to hit your insecurities. It's going to hit different parts of you. And then you just accept each of those situations. And what happens when, I'm sure when people get rejected, there's going to be so many insecurities that come up. They're going to, maybe they're talking to a girl and they get rejected. Maybe they have some beliefs about themselves, these insecurities that start popping up in their head. A common belief that I hear from people that I worked with is I'm too boring. I'm not fun enough. And she didn't like me for that. Whatever the insecurity is, once they identify that these are insecurities and these beliefs are popping up, how do you deal with an insecurity?
Here's the most beautiful thing about insecurity. You bring it up to the surface. So welcome the trigger. Well, the thing about insecurities is a lot of them are right next to a wound. So when somebody goes, let's just take my client, for example. He was called Frankenstein as a kid. If I said, whoa, man, you're like a big dude. You're like Frankenstein. He'd probably go, bro, yourself, right? Because I triggered something there, right? Because there's an insecurity around it. Well, I called him something. Maybe I complimented him by saying that. Ultimately, the thing about insecurities and confronting them is that you're supposed to welcome them and listen to them. The reason why people have really bad reactions to insecurities is because they think that they won't get triggered around women. They think that they won't get triggered around their friends. They think that they won't get triggered at work. And then that's just a fundamental lie that people are being told, that you're supposed to be always, all the time, rock solid, steady, impossible to take down. I have insecurities. I've created a system by which I can confront them. I make sure that I can separate it from the wound. We all have wounds. It's just a fact.
And how do you separate it from the wound?
Always establish that there's a certain point where if somebody's being outright disrespectful, you have to set a boundary. Now, you can tell there's a wound when there's a lot more emotion that's coming behind it for somebody that doesn't deserve much emotion.
Yeah. So you identify that there's a wound here.
Yes. And you have to identify that there's a wound there. And honestly, all it takes is a few seconds to gather your thoughts. You just need you count down from 3 before you open your mouth. When you feel that wave go over your head, maybe it's shame or whatever it is, just kind of embrace the silence of it. Let that person feel what they even told you, and then separate it from the wound. And then you could set a boundary from that point, or you could communicate back whatever you had to say. So there's many things about the insecurity thing. It's that and I mean this, the only reason why somebody would walk into any situation, like you take a date, for example, you take that guy, you gave me an example about one of the guys that you worked with, and it's that he feels boring.
Yep.
I wouldn't say, oh, shoot, you're boring. Let's work on some things to make you not boring. I would say, what do you hide from people that you see as awkward, that you see as too much, that you see as unlikable? And they'll list so many things. So the truth is they're not boring. They're just repressed. They're repressed. Right. And it's like, well, then how do you fix any insecurity? By bringing it up to the surface, creating intention around it. And then you shatter it very easily. I usually think that if you wanted to like make it very practical, because that's what we're going into here. So one, you bring it up to the surface, right? Let's say somebody triggers it. You're like, oh my God, I'm really insecure about my, I don't think I look very good. I'm not very handsome, right? Next thing is just challenge the belief, right? Because you establish something that you believe that you aren't handsome. Now, what is the problem with not being handsome? Well, you can't find love. So you understand that the other side of handsome is love. So it's not so much handsome that's the problem. It's love that you want. So then you can ask another question. What if you look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame? Usually people are taking a step back by that. There's a little pattern interrupt. They're like, well, I'm like, would you stop your journey? Would you, sit down, go to bed, call it there? And it's particularly for men. They love a challenge. They'll go, well, no, it's not fun. I'm a hunchback. I'd much rather look better than a hunchback. But yeah, I would go out there, right? And you're like, so we've established something. It doesn't matter that much. You could also do it the other way around. Let's say you look like Brad Pitt. And then they're like, okay, let's say Brad Pitt. Would you still feel worthy? They're going to go, no. Okay, great. So now we've established that you've used that as a limiting belief. Let's shatter it. What you really want is love. Why don't you feel deserving of love? Oh, because I was told this and this when I was younger. I was bullied by all my friends. They said my forehead was too big, et cetera, et cetera. And you go, well, where do you point your finger? Why do you feel that is this something you're responsible for? A lot of people will usually point the finger at their parents, because that's usually where things come from, mom and dad. And they'll feel like, hey, there has to be some level of forgiveness to get past these insecurities. Forgiveness of yourself, right? Because here's the good thing. When working with humans, your market's imperfect. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's just to love that imperfect. And a lot of time people who have insecurities are people that aren't willing to venture into it because they're too afraid of rejection, typically because their ego won't let them. Most free I've ever been is once I started. I was really, really good at one-liners. I was really good at pickup lines. I was really good at getting girls' attention. And my whole life I was. Insecure as fuck though. Like, Nobody knew the amount of social anxiety I experienced. I experienced full blown like and every time around
Mm,
women. And then you're like, well, a guy like you, what are you talking about? Believe me, guys like me suffer it the most because there's an expectation that guys like us don't suffer just like you do, right? Or not you particularly, but like anybody who doesn't feel like they're beautiful, whatever it is. So it was because I never wanted to face rejection head on. I wanted to be perfect, calibrated, and calculated. What was that a product of? Well, for me in my life, it was definitely a product of not feeling enough, not feeling worthy. So I just said, you know what? I'll become super calculated, super. I'll say my
mm,
lines. I'll do things. I'll get what I need, and I'll leave. What is that a product of? Well, survival. It's called hypervigilance. So I was incredibly sociable, but very, very insecure. I never had an opportunity to ever deal with myself. I never got to rest in the silence. I never got to stop the work. And the best thing that ever happened to me was COVID. There was no parties.
mm,
There was nobody to hunt down. Hell, if you wanted to get a girl's number on COVID, you'd get sprayed in Los Angeles.
mm,
So there was none of that. So you're left with the first time with
mm.
yourself.
Yeah.
No, the greatest opportunity in life is not getting what you want. There's this one guy I was working with, beautiful kid. I'm talking like six pack abs, 6 foot, drives motorcycles, movie star. And he was like, how do I get what you got? And I just said, by not getting what you want all the time. And I said, let me guess, you've never had a hard time getting a girl. You never had a hard time buying the car. You've never even had a hard time making the friends. Who are you? I think that the biggest curse that anybody can get is whatever they want when they want it. Please take a step back, like a little bit of sovereign, like humility that you're going to need to have towards life. And yeah, you get what you want, you become insecure. You're somebody that
Mm,
understands that everything in your life you get to work for, to feel a relationship with, but you feel deserving of it. And the work is just the way about you love it. Hey, Dad, I want this car. Here's the car. Take my black card. Just swipe it. It's yours. Or I want that car. I want to see how I can make it. That's going to be my prize at the end of it. That's be my birthday gift. Who's going to
mhm,
love the car more? Who's going to feel more worthy of other things too?
mm. Yeah.
It's, I believe that a lot of these things in creating confidence, there's so many like practical things to do. But remember, if you give somebody that fears rejection a few things to do, that is not going to allow them to confront that fear of rejection, they'll end up like me, which was hyper performative. By the way, yeah, very good communicator, partially because of this. Had such an expectation on myself to communicate that I just had to remove it in order to become a good communicator. That's the truth. Um, I guess once I finally
Mm,
confronted the overall fear of being completely rejected, that's when my life started. So that happened around 22. After a big relationship, I just said, you know what? I want to look like an idiot. I want to live my life for me. That's it. I want to live my life for me. My ego has
mm,
kept me here this long, and I am not satisfied. I'm
mm,
not satisfied with my life. It has told me that I'm good enough, that I got it, bro. What do you mean? You're mojo enough. Look at all your friends. I hung out with losers. Of course, they'd say that I was the shit. The second I hung out with people that I actually respected, they're like, you got work to do, buddy. Keep up with us. And I was like, this is where I want to be. And I don't ever want it
mm.
to stop because it feels so damn good to do the things that my inner child would have died to bring into this world.
And what did that
So,
shift look like? You said in 22 you started making a shift, and what were the actual things that you did differently, or how did you go to situations differently?
so if I had to kind of put it as like a one, two, three, one of them was the first thing I did was realize that a lot of the things that I'm doing were a lie. I was living one big lie. I, at the time, took a vow of celibacy because I thought that was a great idea. It was at the time, but you do that for a year and a half, it becomes safe. It becomes
Mm,
very safe. Well, how would I use to cope with the complacency in my life and the lack of action and motivation? Well, very simple. I would just play video games. I'd hang out with friends that would just all talk about wanting to get married, and nobody would be married. Nobody would hang out with girls, and we'd have the same night until we resented one another. So there's a point where eventually it started hurting. I noticed the job I had was not a representation of me. It wasn't challenging me, right? There's a lack of challenge. I felt like the walls were getting closer and closer around my throat, and I couldn't even speak anymore. It was because I was allowing myself to be in a position that was inauthentic to me. When I started to change, I started to adopt the behaviors of somebody who was free. I like to call it like abundance training, where
mm,
you pretty much live your life like you will be the millionaire you set out to be. Like you are going to be the guy that already has the abundance of women, or not even women, the abundance of friends, relationships, people, community, connection, intimacy, right? And most importantly, the only thing that you're going to be doing is capitalizing on the way that you feel for the things that you want to interact with. So
mm,
you're not going to say no. You're going to say yes and to yourself. So a lot of the time, what happens when a guy sees a girl walk in a cafe? She's a pretty girl. What happens when guys see pretty girls? When they feel unworthy? Shame. And then that what lets you down? Let her walk through. Okay. Right. Now, when you adopt playing the fool and you see the pretty girl, the goal is to go, okay, emotion came up to the surface, capitalize on that emotion. And after that, you go to get her number. She goes, no, no, thank you. You're kind of creepy. And you're like, oh, fuck yeah. And she's like, what? And you're like, oh, you didn't know I've been just like setting up this whole thing in my life where I just do what I want to do. And there were so many times I realized where I was saying no. I was like, I saw the tab. I always wanted to be the guy to pay the bill. So what did I do? Hand the card. My friends go, whoa, what's happening? I'm like, don't worry about it. They're like, what, you making more money? So, don't worry about it. I was doing it for myself. And that action of being free, whenever I go on the beach, and I love speaking to people, I'll just go ahead and talk to a group of people. Why? It's about looking like an idiot. And that's not the only group of people. I'm done telling myself no. Then one of my friends invited me to speak at his personal development event because I told him that I'm going to start doing coaching and stuff. And he's like, you're the only guy I know that's really well spoken. I've been through a whole list of coaches. If you want to speak for my event, we'll pay you $500 every call that you're on. Boom. Now I'm public speaking for the first time. I didn't tell myself no. For the first time in my life, I started just, and I believe that I'd recommend this to anybody, anchor your most powerful emotions to music. There is nothing. I love how people are like, I'm so lost and confused. Like, why does music make you feel so damn much and you don't use it in your day to day? Dude, leave an AirPod in, play Biggie Smalls. Hey, excuse me, miss, what's your name? And now you're like, what the fuck? You're in a movie. And people ask you, what do you do for work? And you're like, I don't care. Do you see this? It's all yours. It's all yours. And you choose to stay right where you are. And so I would wear Hawaiian button downs. I'd wear wife beaters. I'd fucking wear bell bottoms. I'd wear cowboy boots. And I was just doing it to just go, fuck you, old character. And another really powerful thing that people can do in order to step into that new character is adopt a character that you look up to. Every kid's favorite holiday, don't say Christmas, please say Halloween. Because I think particularly for boys, we love Halloween. We get to dress up. And I think that as adults, we stopped that. We started to dress up as employees. Horrifying. This is now your new identity. And why do you think it affects us so much? Like the entrepreneurs get to wear the suit. What does the suit represent? Well, the achievement of man, right? And it's like it's military garb. It involves status, right? It involves clean. It's sharp. It's cut. It's classy. Well, are you those things? So I adopted characters, and I believe one of the most powerful characters I ever played. I think the three most powerful characters I've played, and I still keep playing characters. Why? Because I have so much fun. I have a sound system that I think is Jarvis, because I was just like, I saw Tony Stark. I was watching the Iron Man films. I was like, dude, this is so much fun, right? And I was like having such a great time. And I started to just go, well, let's buy some sports cars. Let's just kind of go on like an ego trip. You know what it is? But I'm having fun. And before that, it was Matthew McConaughey. I came out of a relationship. I didn't know where to go. I needed to adopt a character that was graceful. And I thought I was aging. I thought I was old. I was 21 at the time. So I was like, well, Matthew McConaughey is happy and old. So I'll play him, right? And so, yeah, I'd wear the cowboy boots, tucked in white t-shirts. And I started to sound like him even. But being graceful was effortless. I'd go on my road trips. I'd go on my activities. I'd travel the world. After that, I had to step into like a more metro situation. So then I was like, you know what? I love the show Lucifer. I bought the shoes. He wears like Christian Louboutin red bottoms and an Armani suit. I bought an Armani suit. I bought the shoes. Did I feel like him? Absolutely. Did I speak like him? Absolutely. And I was having so much fun because I was dressing up, I was playing a part, and I was discovering parts of myself through playing these characters. And guess what? Life starts moving. And then your priorities shift real fast. The US dollar turns into bullshit. The daily moment that you have is the only thing you seek. And then the dollar chases you. So I tell my friends, let's all wear suits. Let's all go out. And they're like, dude, this guy's come back to life. Where has he been? I was dead, dude. I was dead. Came out of a relationship, had a stable job, had everything that a person would want to have, had friends that would have been like, we'll come over, bro. We'll play video games. Brighten up, man. You don't think it's painful speaking about it? Dude, it's fucking horrifying. It's horrifying because not because it was that bad, but because there's so much more, please. And you could pick a character, whatever resonates with you. I have some guys in my group, they're like, one of them's like, oh, I'm Will Smith. And I said, well, fuck yeah. How's that been? He's like, it's been so fun because I've been trying to embody that. I've been buying the clothes to fit the outfit. And then you feel young again and you forget how old you are. It really doesn't matter. It's about what you could bring today. And if you have today, then you're alive. It's never been a competition. You're the luckiest motherfucker in existence if you're alive. And that's a belief that I've had and I've adopted and I've acquired. And I spent over $60,000 just enjoying my life without looking at my card. And I made it back sixfold within a month. I wish people did this. I wish people challenged themselves. I wish people realized that if you had nothing to lose, you'd be so damn powerful. What if you didn't have an ego? If that's the last thing you got, let's break that too. Let's see who you become. Maybe you'd start having fun. Maybe people would look at you going, what's that guy on? huh, back to their day. You'd be a beacon of what could be for them. You'd be embodying other
Mm,
people's dreams, and nobody knows
yeah.
who you are. You choose that every day. And I chose that
Mm,
every day. Characters help me find myself because there's a reason why I picked those characters that had a little bit of me.
yeah. And that's really all just trying new behaviors and having fun with new behaviors. And maybe some people reject you, some people don't, but you're just able to choose new behaviors and really just start to experience life in different ways and start just having fun with it. And I think, like you said, connecting with that inner child is just one of the most powerful things, because we all have that inner child inside of us, but we have all this fear and restrictions, keeping them, conditioning to keep them, kind of bottled in. So allowing yourself to intentionally just play with that, intentionally come up with a character like a kid would, and just have fun and go talk to people, I think is such a powerful thing. And just a key part of being confident is you have to try new behaviors and experiment with different things. And I think having a character, it makes, it puts structure for people. It allows people to more intentionally think about how they're going to do this instead of just saying try different things. I think it's very clear and more kind of relatable for someone to be like, oh, just choose a character and try playing that part, and then choose another character, and then they start bringing and expressing different parts of themselves. I think that's beautiful.
And if we are at core, there's a reason why acting is part of the arts. It is true.
Mm,
We are all actors. Just pick the role that you want to play. There's a reason why
sure.
we have. If you're really in touch, you can feel and you hear where you need to be, and there is nothing more fulfilling than that. Just
Mhm,
finding you were like, oh, that character, yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that. And
mhm,
that's life building in and of itself. And I found the present moment again, and I stopped wishing my life away. And I think that most people wish their life away. It's like it's the most heartbreaking thing. It's so many people are unique. It's just that they never got a chance, And
yeah.
all I'm trying to do is give people the chance to feel alive again. And this isn't to just like socially condition people because there's so much social conditioning, but it's just who nobody owns you. You're free. Not even your parents
Mhm,
do. They've given you life and everything you did. Your job doesn't own you. I think that that's a fundamental concept people should play with. Nobody owns you. I'm free. I'm totally free.
mhm,
Truth, then I have to seek that truth. If I'm a captain out on sea in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and the truth is that there's land, clearly. Not where I'm at, but there's land. Right where I'm at, feels like the whole world flooded. A truth in their mind knows that there's land. If they shift sail in any direction long enough, they'll hit land. The person
mhm,
that lives by goes, the whole world's drowned. What we have left is all we're ever going to have. Count and ration out all of it. It's a
mhm,
falsehood, man. Everything comes down to truth. There is no shortage of abundance. You can
mhm,
see that. There's no shortage of money. You're just not the one holding it. There's no shortage of beautiful women. You're just not the one worthy of it. There's no shortage of friends. You're just not the one that feels like he can actually be himself to attract his friends. All of these things come down to the voices in your head. We need one another so bad. Some people do not have the value system. Some people do not have the parents. Some people do not have the life. Some people do not have the circumstances. And if we can just do one thing, it's just be kind. You can literally heal somebody in a single act of no, 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 please take this. I see you need it. A single
mhm,
act of, hey, is everything okay? I notice you came to work today. You don't look too good. Just take a moment. Maybe take some of your time aside. Stop your hour. Stop the clock ticking. You don't
mhm.
get it. You do that once, you change the world. You change one person's life, you change the world. That's the reason why I do this.
Absolutely. And we talked about values a few times. And I think for a lot of people, they don't fully understand what values are and like how to find out what their values are, right? Because it's such a key part of being authentic is living true to your values. So can you just kind of summarize and briefly explain what are values? And if someone is listening, how do you find your own values?
Yes, I'm really not here to put narrative. I promise you that. I'm not pushing a narrative. I want everybody to be free. Everybody has a book or a document that they either consciously live by or subconsciously live by. Now,
Mhm,
what are your values? They are like if you look at your body, they're a representation of your lower back. They're the things that keep you upright and allow you to support weight, allow you to walk, allow you to exist. It's your core, right? So
mhm,
well, a lot of the time people think that they just believe things because it feels good. It feels cushy, like, oh, I like to not steal because stealing is bad, right? Again, subconscious relationship with your values. Conscious relationship with your values is because A, B, C, D, and E. And ultimately, it has to amount to something on a core level, something that's bigger than mankind itself. in order for it to really be a value, or else it's just a conditioning tactic and things that you can get people to believe in to get them to do what you want them to do. This is going to be I'm going to take a little bit of time here, because ultimately everything that I do for people is connect them to their values at the end of the day. A lot of people think that there aren't a system of values that they have to adopt. The answer is you absolutely do. You absolutely do. For example, I call myself it's ridiculous. I'm an Old Testament Jew. Whatever that means. The reason why I have to make that differentiation is because there's so many sects in Judaism, and a lot of them actually don't follow the Old Testament. Every single thing that I speak about can be rooted from a biblical foundation. I had to do this journey on my own. This wasn't something I initially agreed with. I had to make a relationship with these values in order for me to adopt these values. But a lot of people aimlessly just go, well, because the higher ups and the people that represent the religion told me these things are real, so I'm going to take this upon myself. That's a lie. That's convenience. And I'll tell this to anybody. Anything that's convenient in your life is the equivalent of making a deal with the devil. If it's convenient to text your ex because now you can get all of your emotional needs, that's the devil. If it's convenient to just go ahead and go, well, my priest told me this is how God is, so I'll listen to my priest, that's the devil. If it's convenient to not ask a question to your spouse because it may be that they are cheating on you, that's the devil. And ultimately, we have to start understanding we have to consciously go for these values. We have to. You don't get it. You subconsciously pick them. Your values determine your beliefs. Your beliefs determine your reality. So if you don't know what your values are, you don't know why your habits are your habits. You don't know why you do what you do. And ultimately, you are programmed by some sort of system to get you into a position that benefits them, not you. What is the individual's job? Self-benefit. Benefit only oneself. What serves you most, what fulfills you most. And so, yeah, whether you like it or not, if you're born in the United States, you're raised on what you call a Judeo-Christian Judeo-Christian value system. Asia, that's wrong, spacing out on this. Then you are going to have core values that are fundamentally either Hindu or Buddhist, because their whole culture is around it. Now, once we begin to understand that, yes, you are influenced by those beliefs, why don't you go study them? Go find the truth. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself signing up to courses that I don't need to be running, because you're looking to somebody else's voice. Because what does that voice have? Strength. You want it too, don't you? How did I get it? How can you get it? Connect to those values. See where you've gotten your influence from and where you hit the mark, right? Because it's like a dartboard. How many arrows do you see? How many circles do you see on that board? Aim for the middle. If it's 16, aim for the middle. If it's 3, aim for the middle, right? They're the things that you know you do. And I think that all the world does. It's the 10 Commandments, more or less. 90% of the world believes in it. You have to consciously find it, though, and go, why? The day a man no longer hopeful thinking, he is now going, whoa, I'm in control of all of it. Because I actually looked. I'm not a Jew because it's convenient. Because if I wasn't Jewish, well, I wouldn't have community. And if I didn't have community, I wouldn't get married. And if I wouldn't get married, I'll die alone. That's most people's thinking. If I tell my parents that I don't want to be Jewish, or I don't want to be Christian, or I don't want to be Muslim, I want to find the truth, whatever it is, what do you usually get? How could you? I cast you out. So what do? You please, you perform, you hold on. How do you set yourself free? Realize that everybody has a book that they follow. You pick yours and you live by it, and you better know every damn detail of it, because one day you will be put to the test, and it's going to be a test of your values. And when you know you can make that test because you've ran through it as many times as possible, of course you become strong. You become a leader and the hardest person to enslave, because you know your worth, you know what you believe. I have to say the 10 Commandments, right? A lot of people don't know what they are, but this is something I would express to you guys. You're going to have to pick something. So pick it. Empty heads are very dangerous. And I know that we think that we believe in the things that we believe because we're so self-righteous. I think that's very egotistical and something a human being that's very unaware would say. The reason why you believe in what you believe in is because it's convenient. That's why. You think it's convenient to do a little bit of soul searching, maybe travel the world for 3 years, experience cultures for 3 years, see how people are. You think that was convenient? I can only imagine that it was. There's nothing convenient about testing your foundation, but it's the one thing that'll free you. And then you'll actually have the ability to, and I think particularly for men, is to guide a woman in your life, because you will know what you believe, and you could actually tell her why you believe these things, which means that you can be challenged no matter what. And actually you could start making sense of yourself, whether it's, oh, I don't believe in sex before marriage, or whether I do. At least you've established that you have values around these things, because there's truth. Truth is the only reason why we're here. Truth is the only reason why we're on this call. Truth is the only reason why people ever congregate together. And truth is the only reason why we can heal. It's the reason why we can have family. And it's the reason we can have love. At a subconscious level, we have a romantic subplot in our lives. And if I believe the greatest love story of all is our desire to seek truth in our partners, in our friends, in our business, in ourselves. And that's going to continue for an eternity because truth is that big. It's going to take an eternity to find the whole thing. So what happens when we find our values? The truth is that a lot of these, even if you're a religious Buddhist, you adopt Confucius ideas. Confucianism has 10 laws, just like Jews have 10 laws, just like Muslims have their set of laws, and Christians have their set of laws. And have you noticed that they all kind of fit on one bullseye? So you become truly powerful when you adopt a belief that embodies the notion that we are one, that we are free. That you don't kill, that you don't steal, that you don't commit adultery, that you don't covet, that you don't bear false witness. Those are half the 10 commandments. I think that we all agree on that. But it's much better to go, I agree on it because higher power. And you can find your reason after it. But the deeper and more of a core, on a core level, the more powerful somebody is. And then when you find that, oh my God, these are things that I've adopted myself. You could expand them and you can find the principle. And then when you find the principle, everybody goes, whoa, everything you say is like so universal. Yeah, because it was at first like a crystal. And I adopted the value long enough until I got what was inside of it. And I got that infinite spark. And then that's when you could spread a message. It's when you're able to understand why you've adopted, and you long enough until you find what's on a core level, which means it's on a spiritual level, which means it surpasses religion, it surpasses institution. And it's something that's undeniable about all of us. It's the God in all of us, and it's one. We are one.
So really it's getting that first awareness, what those values are, that kind of conditioning that comes from pretty much from convenience, and then finding the truth. And how do people, identify the truth that's inside, like the values that they have, that they choose for themselves?
Wonderful question. You're such a good listener. By the way, it probably makes you the most lovable person on planet Earth. I'm sure you tell that to people. Just listen and look. It has to stand the test of two things. How do you judge a tree? By its fruit. That makes a good tree, right? How do you know it's the truth? When people are extraordinarily free from it. They're happy, they're connected, and it makes it feel like you're living the orchestra piece, opposed to trying to put in your own narrative of falsehood. Yeah. So a really good truth, how it affects the world. And you can run around with it, right? Like I found this so funny, particularly Christians. We're Catholics, because unfortunately, most people don't know this. If you're Christian, you're really Catholic or a variation of it. They had a majority of the power, and they were able to change a lot of what was in the New Testament and in the Old Testament. And they'll never ever tell people these things, right? For example, how do you know something is the truth? As a Jew, I can tell you one thing. The most miserable people you will ever meet are Orthodox Jews. I can tell you there's a level of falsehood in their belief system. They do good things. I give them that. Doing good things, that's a level of truth, right? The other level of truth is how it allows the human being to thrive. Thrive. Believe that those two things you can see, there's a level of truth to it. One of my friends, really good friends, telling me this. He was like, he went to church and he was like, this fucking sucks. I love Jesus. I love God. I love Christianity, but this fucking sucks. I'm sitting here listening to a boring ass sermon with a bunch of people looking down like this, like as if they're all defeated. This is God? Bro, that's the fucking devil. And then he said, well, then he went to another church, and that church had live music and people singing and dancing, praising God. And he's like, there's truth here. Why? There's music, there's community, there's romance. And of course, there's just a relationship with it that brings out joy. And I believe that that's where truth resides. If we actually start to integrate the truth into ourselves, then we become somebody that's capable of bringing the truth. And once we bring the truth, well, man, there's beauty. And I think that when we also see beauty, we bend a knee.
So real values are ones that are expansive, where you're feeling, more free, where typically other values that maybe you get because of convenience is more restrictive. Like you have to do things to kind of conform.
It's easy. It's easy. It's when things are easy, and anybody, it's a really good tip in life. When there's a very, very easy way that will solve your problem so easily and so conveniently, take a couple moments, reflect on it. I like the word easy. I don't think that's a fundamental truthful word. I think that's a seductive word used by people that want something out of you. Now, what is this like? It's like almost negative in its own way. I really have to say that the happiest people are people that are really integrated, and they're integrated with their values. Now, there's one thing that people need to understand before moving forward, which is there are two things. If you're idealistic, you're going to suffer because that means
Mm,
you live your whole life in the face of being this ideal. If you are
mm,
completely juvenile, you're going to suffer. There's a level of having a little bit of both, right? What are we presented with the ideal? You know, the beautiful wife, the children, the job, the community, the respect, right? What happens when you don't fit into that ideal? You're just rejecting yourself every day. The whole point isn't to go, oh, you guys can't have each other. Put my head down. I gave up. Stand up straight and going, wait, hold a second. I like you and I need you. How are we going to do this? Also,
mhm,
you, why are you this way? And now that is what you call a relationship with God. You can talk to him, man. You could say you're not happy. You could say, fuck this. But this whole notion where he doesn't exist, because that's convenient. I think that's really convenient. I
yeah,
think atheism, I think believing in nothing is convenient because if you had to
mm,
believe in something, you'd have to do some work. God forbid.
mm,
The whole point is that I've seen people that are integrated to the ideal and they're flawed people. They are so happy. Their sex is so good. Their children respect them. Their wives love them. Their work is a product of themselves, and they could show up every day for them. They don't even work a 9 to 5. The money they make is like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, I get to be me. I get to be alive. Think about that. That's what
yeah,
happens when we look at ourselves and we look at what God wants from us, as a way to put it. And I think for most people who have a negative association to it, is the universal spirit, the infinite source, the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But it's bigger than you. And let's make sure it's so much bigger than you that you can't even comprehend it, because then you probably won't respect it. And there has
mm,
to be a level of that. But don't be afraid to just challenge it, because you're here. You're allowed to
mhm,
challenge it. Go
yeah,
challenge truth.
yeah. There needs to be this integration of all that. One more topic I want to is comparison. I'm
Mhm.
curious, what are some things that, you know, we all just compare. We have these thoughts that are coming inside our head, even from evolution, we are kind of to need to compare ourselves to others. What are some comparisons you still find yourself, your mind just keeps popping up in your mind? And how do you deal with that comparison?
I think comparisons typically happens when there's a perfectionistic mindset, which typically means that there's an imposter, right?
Mm,
There is a disconnect from yourself, and comparison is convenient. It's the best way to put it. I also like to think of it not as the thief of joy, but the thief of power. Most people don't care to be happy; they care to be powerful, because that's where you're really happy, and it's where other people don't fuck with you. So a lot of people need that feeling. The
mm,
thing is, the thing about comparison is that the problem with it is it completely dematerializes your whole experience. And for years, I would compare myself to people, but it wasn't in the same way that most people do. Maybe that's probably why it's unrelatable. But I would say that most people do have a level of comparison where I mean, now you have the ultimate coveting device. You can just go on it and you
mm,
compare yourself to Tony Robbins, and now I'm a shit coach, right?
mhm.
Who came up with those ideas, right?
Yeah.
When we start to realize, and this is for people that do compare a lot, realize that that is your way to create a convenient life where you don't have to clean up the mess in your own. Remember, you created it because it's easy to not confront the things that are so terrifying in you. I got rid of comparison when I don't manage my Instagram, in case you haven't noticed. I actually don't post things on it. Probably this will piss some people
Mm,
off because they're like, oh, you just post things for work. I promise you, I answer to the important stuff, but I'm not connected to it. And the reason is because if I can get everybody off of it, get off of it. Get
totally.
off of it. You don't have the power to hold yourself back. You don't get what you're doing. It feels good to see what other people are doing. And then eventually you start to create a cynical mindset of, person falls. I hope he falls. I hope he falls. Oh, thank God he falls. My dreams, I gave up on them, and that's okay. Again, all of these
Mhm.
things are just constantly, what do? Is you just start to like live in a room where there's infinite amount of monitors surrounding you. And all of the monitors are somebody else's life. And you could at any point go ahead and look at somebody else's life. And by the way, experience that. I think it's like what I call it, like the porn generation, right? The spectating generation. Everybody watching the experiences they wish to have through screen. And by the way,
Mhm.
putting all of their energy there.
Yep.
What happened to me is when I started to realize, like, okay, oh my God, I'm comparing myself to him. He achieved this at this time, and he achieved it at that time, and he got married, and they're moving this, and they're making money. And I was like, right. I realized that this was actually what I was doing to protect myself from the responsibility that I was afraid of. Comparison to others typically has a core issue, which is a fear of responsibility, a negative association to your life. like honestly, I have so much compassion to people that are born with disabilities, speech impediments. Me and you are born with the ability to speak. There's a guy out there that had to get teeth put in their mouth, and we were born with teeth. Now, we can go ahead and compare ourselves. That's another form of comparison, which is implying that another person doesn't have a whole list of struggles that you can't even comprehend. Because that's a level of naivete that you think that being tall, dark, and handsome is going to solve all of your problems. No, it's going to give you a whole list of problems. And you're going to think, because this is an easy, convenient lie, that their life is easier than yours. Try it. I promise. It's not. We're all struggling. One struggle is not greater than the other because there's always a person relative to that struggle. We have to be appreciative of our life all the time. And comparison takes away your ability to even have the things that you have. So not only do you make yourself weak, you make yourself non-existent because you can't even appreciate the water you're drinking, the roof on your head, the people you have. Empty, you're nothing when you compare yourself. So I found a really good antidote to it is realizing that you're using comparison often because it's keeping you away from the things that you need to do that you're afraid of. So what are the things that you are not confronting that you know you should confront? Write them down and then lock the door because you're going to need to. You're going to have to focus. There's a level of fulfillment that will happen in our life. Maybe one day you're like, fuck you, 10K, 10K a month, 10K a month. And then some other guy across the street's like, bro, chill. Like, I just had to close this $100,000 deal over the phone. You're going to go, oh. The problem with that is that that person is not actually in their life. They're not looking at it like as if it's their achievement. They're looking at it relative to everybody else's achievement, which means that they're always nothing to everybody. And I just can't get it. And it's something you have to train yourself not to do. Every dialogue needs an equal loving dialogue to beat it. I know that we're like, maybe you hear this in your head. You're worth nothing. You made 10K. He made 50. Get back to the office and hustle. Don't even celebrate. You don't get to celebrate. You need a loving dialogue. All right, you piece of shit. Whoever's speaking to me, I'm going to speak back to you. And you could try this. It's like really fun. I love how people think like psychology is like, oh, science. It's a creative field, by the way. And it's a book that's this big. It's no bigger than this fucking textbook. If you took all of psychology and compacted all of the things that you could actually use, it's this big. 90% of it's theory. And it's only been around for 100 years. So the human mind is the most easily fooled piece of the body. So I love how we think that it has to be constructed by rules. I think that you need to pay attention to people and see how much bigger we are because we're not constructed by rules. Maybe speak their story. And then now you got influence, which is why it's really important to start learning how to do that. You could influence yourself. So you got that shitty dialogue and all it tells you is you're not worthy. You can't have that. You're not enough. You're not this. You're not that. And then beat it back. Why is it we expect that something's going to happen to just alleviate it? Fight it back. Who's speaking to me that way? I can tell you one thing. You're speaking from a place of pain and fear. I'm speaking from a place of love and admiration. I was somebody who struggled so much. Money never came easy. I was born with scarcity. And the day that I made 10K was the day that I didn't just make 10K. I broke the beliefs around wealth. I broke generational trauma. I'll be the one person in my family that will free them. And this is the amazing part because this is just the first step. And I'm so proud of you. And I love you so much. And just keep going. And I'm cheering you on. Where's that negative dialogue now? It comes up again. Why are we just expecting something?
So you use that comparison kind of as a flashlight to see what that internal dialogue is, because usually there's some wound there's some insecurity, and then you really kind of flip it on, thinking about just what do I have, what am I grateful for, and using it, if anything, as a motivation towards getting what you truly want.
Absolutely, man. My God, I can just like, it's just, I remember the day when people listened to the music in their ears and made love to the woman in front of them, and we played with our children and we did our work. We loved it. Now we're exposed to every single possible scenario that a human can achieve, what you believe. And you better believe that your life is for you. I realize this. This may sound a little conceited, but I'm not saying it to be that way. I could have any woman that I wanted. I think I'm very successful and I have incredible friends. And I could really go on a trip. I could run with that. But I want to see what's for me. Don't you? I believe that's true for everybody. Sure, you make it to that point. Now you got every woman. Congratulations. You fooled yourself. Which one's for you? So you find yourself in the exact same situation, accepting the vulnerability of life, the inevitability of death, the certainty behind our own greatness and the absolute behind the love that we are worthy of. I really found it so powerful. That's the second I was like, wow, you really want to see what's for you. So don't cover everything. Leave a little bit of room. Don't shut up that voice in your head that has a little bit of doubt. And then you truly begin to live life, because life is a combination of the science and engineering with the mystic and the beauty. And when you engineer your whole life, what ends up happening is you lost all the beauty in it too. So whenever we build ourselves up, we have to always incorporate balance. The integration process is the only process by which we can actually create balance. If the animal has grown larger than the spirit, I have to grow the spirit up to the animal. If the spirit's grown larger than the animal, I have to bring the animal up to the spirit. Because if I don't, then you're constantly living in these, like, never seeing eye to eye.
Beautiful. We have yeah, I think we're running a bit low on time right now. I just have two more questions. We'll do it a little more in like a speed round sort of format. The first one would be, what are some amazing books that you would recommend that will help someone on their journey of confidence?
It's like recommend sales book to salesmen. Get them to try selling one thing once. You'll learn more about sales than reading 1,000 books about sales. That's Alex Ramosi. I believe the same thing goes for about confidence. Go get rejected once. You'll learn more about confidence than any book will ever teach you. I do believe that there are a few things that you can learn in order to get like a fundamental concept of these books. I'm a really big fan of Carl Jung. But when it comes to
Yeah.
like social base level stuff, learn so much from a single interaction, single
Mm.
approach. And I'm really
Yeah.
thinking about it. I love, I used to read self-help books or how to win friends and influence them. But like, okay, you need another guy recommending you that. I think books are overrated. And especially in a world where there's a saturation of information, I think that if you're going to gather your information, the book is the cheapest way to get it. If you're going to read a book, read a story. Stories are great. And I'd recommend that if people had to read some good stories, I'm a really big fan of Kurt Vonnegut. I'd say that Slaughterhouse-Five and Sirens of Titan. I believe that these books are really great because they'll let you feel and experience life and the romantic subplot behind it. Of course, the Old Testament, if you haven't read it because it's a story about mankind and it shaped the way mankind thinks. If you can actually read it with intention, you're not just reading a book that you were forced to read in church. You're reading a book about
Mm.
how human. It is a total
Sure.
book on human um, psychology, sociology, and nature. So you want to learn about human nature, learn the book that shaped it. So there's something really powerful about that. I believe that's for certain. And
Awesome.
yeah, I don't know, but very interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Experience is a much more powerful teacher. And what are some daily habits or practices that you do on a consistent basis that have helped you to maintain or have high levels of confidence?
Yeah, I mean, here it sounds really interesting. I stopped with the whole approach thing because that used to be a crutch. If I didn't approach 3 people a day, it started to go down, which meant that was fundamental. I say the first thing that I do every morning is I make sure I take 2 hours to myself. And I recommend this to anybody who has a very heavy life. 2 hours from when you wake up to when you start work. Go grab a coffee with your friend. If you don't drink coffee, go grab a tea. Have a time where you could spend with your loved ones, just relaxing and experiencing your life. Don't spike your cortisol in the morning. Go to a coffee with a friend, enjoy that coffee out, interact with other people as you're there, talk to the barista, experience a little bit of what life is about, and just kind of watch how everybody moves fast. And you can breathe in that kind of, you could see the wind
Mm.
or the grass left to right, and you're the one thing that's constant. It's like very beautiful, meditative.
Mm.
If you don't have a friend you can meet with, call a friend in the morning and just talk. Talk until it gets stupid. You don't want to lose
Mm.
that. The next thing is this is a fundamental cure for loneliness. Love everybody around you like they are going to be the only people you will ever love. You will first find two things: the resistance by which you do
Mm.
so, and then the acceptance by which you will. One of the biggest things that changed my life was immediately going over to my parents, and I'd give my mother a hug every morning. And this was something that changed my life. And I'd buy my dad a coffee every morning. And I wouldn't live this rat race of an existence. And I would love the people I had around me like they were the only people I ever had. I used to romanticize this whole idea of having my woman and giving her unconditional love when I just robbed my family of the love they deserved. And so
Mm.
the most powerful thing that people can do is actually experience a hug, experience some form of intimacy, experience some form of exchange, some form of support, and give that to others.
Mm.
And yeah, spend
Yeah.
some money on your friends. It's a really good thing to do. And then you start your day. Not only you start your day, but you're like already so far ahead because you're
Mm.
primed for life. You're primed as a human, and that's how we live life. We live life as humans. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
while you're at it, before you wake up in the morning, I recommend, yeah, you're going to go on your phone. But when you do go on your phone, go to your Spotify playlist and play ambient music for the full 2 hours. A lot of people wake up with noise. It's not okay. The morning should be a rebirth. And I believe that. It should not be emails, 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 fuck. And then at night, you're like, oh, I barely made it. And the sun's not even out. So what I do is I play ambient music in the morning, and I grab a nice little really tall thing of water, and I take it out to the sun. I'll take my shoes off, get in the grass, and just look at the sun and drink the whole thing of water. And then after that, just
Mm,
do 10 breaths in and exhales out. And then call your friend, go pick up your coffee. You'll start to feel like you're no longer bound by the ceiling we all have, the
mhm,
sky. You're experiencing your life, and it's romantic because we need that romance to feel together, and and it's constant in our life. Just
mm.
then think about it. And then that could progress, and one day you're married, and what do? You wake up, the first thing you do is kiss your wife, tell her good morning, and it's a ritual that you've embodied, right? And you go take care of yourself, you get your water, you go check in on your kids, and you just go to check in. You're just there to just see what's going to happen. And then you
Mm.
go out with your friend and you grab your coffee, and then sure, you start your day. I don't care if you work in the coal mines, your life will significantly improve, and the people around you will really feel the love that you have to give them, and you will never feel a pound of regret on your shoulders.
Beautiful. I love that. So you take the time to just slow things down, to be present, enjoy the moments, and really just keep your heart open and just let that love flowing, which is going to allow you to just be in this beautiful, loving energy. That's great for you and great for everyone around you.
Yeah, it changed my life.
Amazing.
I hated the hustle culture around you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to wake up. My brother used to invite me in the morning. Look, there's differences. I'm not for everybody. Neither is that for everybody. I just noticed that when I did that, I was extraordinarily happy. Money didn't mean anything to me because I got another day to live. My mornings are my favorite part of the day. I used to loathe mornings. I wake up 6 hours, maybe even 4 hours. If I have that morning, sure, I'll just be tired, but I won't be rushed.
Beautiful. Any final message you would give to our audience who are trying to become more confident, become more authentic, and connect with others?
One is understand that there are so many out there that are just like you. The defining
Mm,
difference between the life you want to live and the life you have right now: curiosity, comfort, and courage. That's it. When it comes to speaking to people, engaging with others, and creating it, comfort is through the relationship with yourself. Curiosity is your willingness to look at things without judgment, and
mm,
courage is an acceptance of the gift of life. Because I think that there's a jolt that we all get when we do what is courageous.
absolutely.
It's in
Love that. And if people want to learn more about you and what you do, maybe potentially work with you, where can people find you?
Well, I mean, you can do the simplest thing possible, which is what everybody does. You could go to naftalimoses.com, or I think it's .org right now, a little website issue. You can go find me on Instagram as Naftali Moses. You can find me on YouTube as Naftali Moses. And if you're somebody that wanted to work with me, you could click the learn more. You can go to the website. You can send us a DM. We'll get back to you. Most important thing is that we're actually having people that feel like you are received, you are welcomed. I get this a lot. It's like, oh, you seem really intimidating, and then when I get to the process, you're like very sweet. There's nothing more difficult than asking for help, and the reason why I say that is because it is so self-defining if you don't even succeed after you ask for help, and then it feels like I'm really a failure. So the truth
Mhm.
is, it's just go out there and see what could happen with just inspiring your soul and your spirit by taking a leap of faith. So go ahead, check me out on the platforms. I'm all the places where you can find people.
Awesome. I'll link those in the description and the show notes. And all right. Thank you so much, Naftali, for hopping on this podcast.
God bless you, Alex. All the best.
Hell yeah, man.
Good night, brother. All the best.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us till the end of this episode. If you liked the episode, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. It makes a huge, huge help for us. So please do that. We have some amazing people already lined up for the next several podcasts. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.